Welcome to Hood Champion Boxing and Sports. In boxing, you find a way to win or you find a way to lose. This is starting to get a bit annoying, so I just want to touch base on it. When it comes to Floyd Mayweather, when he fought Canelo, right? We have to understand something, okay? Floyd was 44-0 with 26 KOs. Canelo was 42-0 with 30 KOs, okay? So they had very close to the same amount of fights, professional fights. For some reason, people don't want to give Floyd his credit. Not even Canelo wants to give Floyd his credit for beating him. Okay? Floyd outboxed him. Yeah, he had more experience, but he had about the same amount of fights. But everybody wanted to throw a pity party for Canelo, especially as of late, like the last few years, saying, oh, he wasn't in his prime. Floyd Mayweather beat him when he wasn't in his prime, although Floyd was almost 40 years old. So it's gotten so bad, the pity party for Canelo, that, and also the fact that people don't want to give Floyd his credit. Look, need to stop that. It's gotten so bad that even Bivol now is jumping on the pity party, getting involved in the pity party and on the BS train. Bivol saying that Canelo, his first real loss wasn't caused by Mayweather. It was caused by himself. Bivol is saying this. Bivol is saying the reason why he sees it that way is because he fought Canelo when Canelo was in his prime. Now, there are some people who would agree with that. But I would say this. Canelo's been fighting as a pro since he was, 15? This man's in his 30s now, right? He's been fighting as a pro for a long time. He's been sparring and training and having training camps for a long time, okay? So although Canelo, they're saying it's in his prime. Now, that man was in his prime when he fought Mayweather, okay? So we have to stop trying to make excuses and discredit Floyd Mayweather for what he was able to accomplish against a young, strong, prime Canelo. Now, this Canelo today, I think there's a misconception that Canelo has evolved after the Mayweather fight, becoming this outstanding fighter who's in his prime now. And I would say he's evolved in the sense that he learned some things from Mayweather, but his body didn't mature into a man. He didn't develop this man strength all of a sudden. No, he went back to the lab with Eddie Reynoso. He worked on a couple things. He picked up some of the techniques, some tactics that Mayweather used to use, especially like that whole pull and counter. Okay, that's classic Floyd. But at the same time as Canelo was strengthening his attack and his defense and his overall how he was going to approach fighting, he started to be more strategic as well in the fights he was selecting. So when you bring the two things together where he's kind of changed his fighting style a bit, which looks more fan-friendly, then he's picking opponents where he can get through them. It almost looks like he's just went into this prime that wasn't there before Floyd, which is all BS. Let me tell you, I could get James Kirkland, same guy that Canelo damn near killed, and Wolf used to train. I could get James Kirkland. I could drive right down there to Austin, get James Kirkland, do some of the same things, line up the right opponents, get a trainer, have him develop a little bit of a different style, and now we can say that James Kirkland, we managed to breathe life back into his career. This is the renaissance of James Kirkland. He's now going into his prime. He wasn't in his prime when he fought Canelo. Like, we can do that. Okay, but we're not going to do that because it's not accurate. And we need to give Canelo his credit for clipping Kirkland, just like we need to give Floyd his credit for clipping Canelo. Canelo was in his prime. So for Bivol to say that, it makes me say, I would never have expected Bivol to say that. I don't know if he's trying to give himself an attaboy, or if Bivol is on the BS train too, that just doesn't want to give this man Floyd Mayweather his credit. And I understand when it comes to a lot of people, when it comes to Floyd, I understand people don't care for him. And I think because they get caught up in stuff that he's thrown out there when he was really marketing himself and trying to get the biggest purses and trying to sell fights and the whole money Mayweather and throwing money and make it rain all day and all that, and showing off all of his cars and his jewelry, and those things can turn someone off. But at Floyd's core, that's not what he's about, okay? Floyd is a good human being. But people need to learn from that and learn marketing strategies, developing a character, developing an image. The image doesn't always have to be positive. It can be what Floyd chose. I'm not going to say he chose to be the villain, but he chose to be a character that was very outspoken, very controversial, and all about money. And as a result, he was able to attract very lucrative deals and opportunities in and outside the ring that it's almost like people wanted to give this man money. Like he attracted opportunities where if he was instead of Money Mayweather, if he was, I don't know, Fancy Foot Mayweather, something about shoes, yeah, and he showed off. His whole thing was just having fancy shoes. There would have been all kind of different brands of sneakers and the heads of these sneaker brands wanting to push their shoes to Mayweather. Mayweather would walk around here with probably 1 million pair of shoes. But that's not what he was pushing. He was pushing Money Mayweather. Money, TMT, everything about him was money. So he attracted people who were into investing, into business, into these things. And as a result, he benefited financially. So I think we need to not allow those lines to get blurred between Floyd Joy Mayweather, and Money May. I think those lines get blurred. And even outside of that, some people just may not like him. But for me, I definitely think those lines get blurred. He's a good human being, and I think it's unfair to discredit that win over Canelo, because at the time Canelo was running through everyone. He wanted to get in there with Floyd Mayweather. Remember, he was in there during the face-off. Canelo was, didn't want to hold the belt. Canelo had a chip on his shoulder, got in the ring. Canelo was, bumping him with his shoulder and shouting at him in the ring during the fight. So he wasn't acting like somebody who wasn't in his prime. He wasn't acting like someone inexperienced. He wasn't acting like he was just a kid. Okay? Now, he got treated and made to look like he had no experience. He got made to look like a little kid, just like Floyd's made everybody else look that way. And if other fighters aren't coming out saying that, well, I wasn't in my prime and, he was fighting a kid, if other fighters who had defeats on their record and some undefeated fighters, if they're not coming out with those excuses, we need to stop making that excuse for Canelo. And Bivol, is an outstanding fighter, but, he took it to the stupid on that one. I was really disappointed to see that even he joined on the BS bandwagon. Like, we need to stop. So I'm going to go ahead and leave it right there. That's how I feel. I feel Floyd Mayweather deserves more credit. I have an idea. I think, like I said, I think people have a tough time with Floyd because he did so much bragging and being flagrant and being disrespectful to a certain extent when he was, boxing. He did a lot of that to sell. What did they have at the time? HBO, I forgot what it's called, man. It's not all, they got all access now, but anyway, I can't remember what it's called. But he did a lot to sell that series. And then he comes over with Showtime and, the same thing. So Mayweather gets it. He understands business. He knew what he had to do to sell any fight that he was getting into. But I think some people just, like I said, allow those lines to be blurred. And as a result, they just develop a bit of a dislike for him. Other people say there are other reasons, I don't get into that. But what I get into is what I feel as far as who Mayweather is at the core. I think he's a good human being. And I think, and I don't think this, I know this for a fact, Mayweather was a bad boy in the ring. Give the man his credit. Canelo right now is kind of getting exposed a bit. It is commendable what he did, stepping up, trying to clip Bivol. But at the same time, let's just be real, okay? He thought Bivol was the easier fighter out of all them guys at 175 because Bivol had knocked out his last 6 opponents. Let's just be honest, okay? And that backfired. So that is cherry picking at its finest, cherry picking gone wrong. Not cherry picking because Bivol's a weak fighter. That's not what we're saying. What we're saying is he thought that he could get to Bivol, touch him up, and win that fight. And Bivol didn't have the power to hurt him. So it backfired. But Bivol now is trying to take credit for something that, is just, you can't come now and think, well, this is Canelo's first real loss. No, his first real loss was when he fought Mayweather, okay? So I'm going to leave it as that. Leave your comments below. Because there are some people who really feel like, Canelo, that fight against Floyd Mayweather shouldn't count as a loss, which I think is just, it's just bewildered. It just bewilders me. Like, that's crazy to me. I don't know. But anyway, leave your comments below and let me know what you think. Do you think it's unfair for Canelo to have that loss on his record because he was still a kid, a baby, although he started boxing, I think, when he was 15 years old? I mean, come on, let's be real. I get it. He's got some more experience. He's tweaked his game. He's looking good. He's become more strategic in how he's picking fighters. But let's just stop with this making excuses for him losing to Floyd. He lost to Floyd. It wouldn't matter if this Canelo or the Canelo from 2 years ago fought Floyd when Floyd was in his prime. Or Floyd, let's say if they were the same age, 30, 32, whatever. Floyd clips him anyway, beats him worse, okay? A 25-year-old Canelo, 25-year-old Floyd. Floyd may kill him. So let's stop. Because Canelo would never beat Floyd, ever. And so to come now talking about he wants to fight, before a couple years ago, he wants to fight Floyd now. Yeah, get out of here with that, man. Now you want to fight Floyd when Floyd's an old man? He beat you when he was old, but now he's old and inactive. Now you want to come and fight him? Nah. And Bivol needs to just, he needs to figure out what the hell he's doing over there because Bivol, no, you don't get to take credit for that. You beat Canelo, you should just left it alone. Now you're kind of making yourself look crazy by talking about this is Canelo's first real loss. Nah, man, we're not going to allow anything to overshadow what Floyd did. Floyd handled that, and it is what it is. Bivol's a great fighter. Canelo's a great fighter, but it is what it is. The first loss came a few years ago when Floyd got in the ring with Floyd, and Floyd schooled him. That being said, like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video. Y'all take care. I appreciate the support. Shout out to all the veterans, and as always, I'm in the breeze.